It is great to see the success you both enjoy in something that you both love. Could you tell us what intrigues you about portraying plants and how each of you got started as a botanical artist?
I think it's a visual intrigue. It's what excites you visually as an artist. It's what you respond to in terms of the colour or the scale or the line or the texture, and that could be said whether it's a figure or a plant. But the aspect of discovering a plant, just when you find it particularly beautiful, be it in bud or whether it's in decay, but it still has to do with the visual elements and colour and tone and light. So I think that that's something that is essential to the way that we enjoy portraying plants.
It's a visual aspect that you first engage with, and so you take it forward from that point of view. As Fiona pointed out, the visual elements are very important in the way that you actually manipulate those and articulate them in terms of watercolour or drawing. So obviously what intrigues us is taking that process forward.
I've always been interested in analytical drawing from a reference point where I have an object in front of me. And I would say probably about 10 years ago, I started to do a series of drawings of natural objects, which I became very involved in. They were drawings in graphite, so they were really about light and devoid of colour. And someone gave me the gift of a book about contemporary botanical art, where most of the work was in watercolour, and I kind of dipped my toe in the water and I just fell in love with it, and so it's developed since then. And then the response of viewers to the work that I've done has also encouraged that and led me to do further work.
For me it was quite different. It wasn't a long drawn out process, it was nigh on overnight. We had visited an exhibition in Pittsburgh where Fiona had some work at the Hunt Institute for Botanical Documentation, and the work there was really very interesting and it captivated me. So on our return, I completely abandoned the abstract work that I was doing and decided to go down the route of botanical illustration and painting.
Could you describe your personal approach, themes and methodologies, and point out the advantages of making unique illustrations rather than depicting plants botanically correct?
I think it's really interesting that for us that we paint plants which are botanically correct. So we strive to make them as botanically correct as possible. Where they differ from the traditional type of botanical art is in that they perhaps have a different viewpoint, an unexpected point of view. They don't always include dissections. The scale may be different. They're totally unexpected in terms of what people would have as a preconceived idea of botanical art, but the idea is still to stay as botanically accurate as possible.
I think for me, the importance of light on the subject matter is an important aspect. For the botanical illustrator, they would tend to avoid very deep shadow, and certainly where a leaf overlaps another and casts a shadow onto the underlying leaf, they tend to ignore the shadow and paint what they think should be there. So from my point of view, I like to go against the grain a bit and explore the possibilities of light and shade in terms of shadow, whether they're extreme, whether they perhaps interfere with the flow of a particular leaf or stem. I like to see and explore the possibilities of showing the form and how the light actually interplays with it.
We record in two different ways, either by an object being in front of us for the complete time that the painting is ongoing, or rather we photograph it or do drawings of it or take notes related to it in terms of colour or so on. And obviously it's much better if the object is in front of you all the time, but you do have to rely on photography, for example, if something's going to go over in a day. Technically I think they're quite difficult. It doesn't matter whether it's yours or mine, yeah. They're quite difficult to produce and take a long time to produce. And that's because we build up transparent watercolour washes. There are 4 categories of watercolour, from transparent to opaque, and obviously the more opaque qualities in the paint allows less of the white of the paper to show through and illuminate and give you that great intensity of colour that you can get by building transparent watercolour washes one on top of the other. So in some paintings you might have watercolour wash layers amounting to, I don't know, 10, 15. And in the same painting, on another part of the painting, perhaps only 2 watercolour washes. So the idea is to be as accurate as possible.
In the age of photography and 3D printing, is there a future for botanical art as a practical mode of documentation as well? And if so, do you think botanical art is preferable to these rather modern methods?
I think that all of these have their place, from photography to 3D printing, to the way that we actually approach it. We take it forward in a slightly different way to an illustrator. As artists, we can obviously interpret what we see, and like a camera, it looks at the subject matter. For example, very deep shadows in a subject can be difficult for the camera to pick up on. But as artists, your eye can regulate to suit the intensity of the tone of values that you have in shadow area, and you can see and observe and go in closer. So from that point of view, obviously I feel that we do have a place.
And finally, I heard that you are currently planning a joint project that requires research at the Royal Botanic Garden Edinburgh herbarium. Could you tell us some more about this upcoming project? And is this going to be your first joint project?
It's the first joint project.
First joint project. Interestingly, we've always worked together. We've always worked together, but not on the same topic. So this is the first time we'll be working on
a collaborative piece.
But the work itself won't be collaborative. We will still approach the work from our own point of view, but it will come under an umbrella of similar themes that we will be interested in. So we'll be working in the same type of habitat or environment, or with the same family of plants. So we'll be taking, rather than just having the end piece painting on show, the idea is that we will have film and recordings and written pieces and research in the herbarium will all be part.
Yeah, we want to show the process of gathering the information and recording it, as well as having some final pieces of work, finished pieces of work. And I think that getting away from the studio will be interesting, and working in the field. I think that in itself will be quite a challenge, certainly from my point of view, because of my interest in light and how it affects the plant forms that I'm actually trying to record. Differing weather conditions, it's a very important aspect for us.
So will it mainly be plants that grow in the UK, that are native to the UK?
We're thinking about
that. Thank you very much for taking your time of shedding some light on your approach to botanical art.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome.